Michigan doing the unthinkable.
Huge potential here.
He gets one, he gets two.
That is beautiful, beautiful front to back right there.
Up 3-1 Eastern. Looking good, feeling good. Life is good. Welcome back to more Overwatch. Before anybody says something, yes, I have lost my voice, but I'm still here. I'm still here because it's Winston. I was going to say it's Winston Wednesday, but it's Thursday.
Yeah, I don't know. What do we get for Torb Thursday?
Torb
Thursday, good enough,
sure.
close enough. I feel like we were just here, man. I feel like
I know.
It was like a few minutes ago. We sat down and did the last one.
I didn't even leave. I just like
nice.
sat here the whole
that's
time.
a good strategy, honestly. I wasted my whole day yesterday doing other stuff.
Pass for parking.
Oh God, yeah.
I'm so glad I didn't have to pay for parking today. Oh, I was not looking forward
I was
to that.
pleasantly surprised when I came in and that was open.
Oh yeah, but we are looking at Game 2. EMU Overwatch Varsity versus, I believe we are against Central Michigan University today. So this should be a good game. You can see our players here warming up, getting ready. I'm looking forward to this. I don't know if there's really much to say about like developments since last game, considering it's been a day.
Not too long. I think the good news here is that, well, you know, I call it good news for today is that we really didn't get to see our full potential yet. So looking at, you know, some more refined, you know, any practice is good practice. Our players did super great VOD reviews, you know, on after Tuesday's game, and I believe we're going to see that today. I think we're going to see a lot of those little minor things that were kind of holding us back, and kind of see that and make, you know, in the big picture, and just kind of take us, you know, farther down these maps and keep it way more competitive. But I'm really excited to see us kind of unlock that potential today.
Absolutely. We did have scrim last night, so little more practice. Every little bit counts, guys. I know it was a good scrim last night, very educational for our players. I'm expecting them to put everything that they learned into practice. No mistakes. It's going to be perfect. They turned into GM players overnight.
Of course,
Top
absolutely.
500, they're getting signed by Owl. We can see chat this time, by the way.
Nice,
so
I noticed that, yeah.
Hi, Levi. So if you guys, I think are we 3 minute delay?
Might be 3 minutes,
We are 3 minute delay. So in 3 minutes, hi, Levi. But anyway, let's take a look at our schedule. The old schedule. Today, EMU Overwatch versus Central Michigan. That's what you're watching right now. And then on Tuesday next week, I am unfortunately not going to be here. I have prior plans, unfortunately. I have one day.
Hey, you can have one. How's one?
But you're going to see EMU Overwatch versus Bowling Green. And then later that same week, Rocket League. And then, of course, back to Overwatch on the 23rd. And then a little bit more Rocket League on the 24th. Seeing more Central Michigan, Ohio University, and Bowling Green.
This is great. We're seeing so many double matchups of Overwatch and Rocket League, and so many games combining, and it's really cool that we get to see the same kind of schools, same kind of players, and kind of develop relationships with these teams. And honestly, this is a super really great schedule. You'll see me here obviously tonight. You'll see me here on September 16th and September 23rd, when hopefully we'll have Glavon back.
Yes,
to bring it back.
I will be back. I'm not going far.
Nice.
But I just have one prior commitment.
Yeah,
that's all I've got. Let's take a look at our standings. So it looks like, you know, not super interesting right now. We got teams that won. We got teams that lost. Unfortunately, we are on the lower end of it right now because we did lose. But Ball State, Kent State, Miami, Ohio, Northern Illinois, and Ohio all lead. Akron had their bye. Bowling Green, Buffalo, Central Michigan, EMU, and Western are on, you know what? There's first place and second place right now.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of saying it. We've still got the silver. You know, to be the university team that gets the bye week 1. You know, where you get to kind of take a look at this kind of stuff and that information. So hopefully Akron can use that little bit of information, extra practice time to bring us a really cool game later in the season. But I think we're ready to go ahead and take a look at our roster.
And it's the same old roster that you know and love. We got Otzel on tank. We got Rage on flex DPS. Aurora, of course, on our hit scan. Nick's making up our main support. And Rose bringing up the rear with flex support. Last but certainly not least, a wonderful roster. It's gonna It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
Honestly, it's a roster for success. I mean, we say it all the time, but these are all the great makings of an Overwatch team, right? Obviously, with the one tank, you've got just the one now for Overwatch 2, but the other roles really do kind of split into those subcategories that analysts and professional players really love to take a look at, and we've got all those bases covered, which is just so great to see in these matches because it really means there's nothing that we can't do. We've got excellent options on flexible DPS. We've got excellent options when it comes to hit scan and just laying down that fire pressure, that's so important in so many of these matches. And then, name a better duo than main support and flex support, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I main support and flex support. My shout out Indigo and Bluke. I don't know, you don't know who they are, but I know that everybody at home watching love Indigo and Bluke, my absolute goats.
Yes.
Former varsity players. Rose and Nyx have some big shoes to fill, taking the spots of Bluke and Indigo. But I believe it's a wonderful marriage to have in that back line because you can just get so much synergy with your Kiri Lu, your Ana Brig, the Juno Brig comps that we saw for a little while. It was so nice not being absolutely stapled to Lucio all the time.
Definitely.
Finally, the introduction of Brig having a little bit more flexibility.
It's true. And especially recently, too, we're seeing so much more variation as metas kind of ebb and flow, and we see the rise of other heroes. We see something like Baptiste, who in recent months has kind of risen from maybe one of those more underplayed to one of those kind of picks that teams will tend to gravitate to in certain instances and on certain maps. And a double flex support is something that works. It is something that happens. But like I said, it's amazing that we have all of those bases covered. And I really do think that, especially as it comes to the support line, that's probably where we'll see the most amount of variation in these games, right? The backline that teams depend on can be very, team dependent, to sound redundant. It depends on what those teams want to play, what their goals are, what they want to do. We can kind of expect a lot of these kind of frontline dominant tanks to be showing up in many instances, and I think in a lot of instances too we can expect some very classic hard-hitting DPS heroes. But I think the supports, they really do have the most amount of change and kind of ebb and flow in what they can do, and I just want to see Zenyatta, mostly. That's what this is all leading to, is I want to see Zenyatta somewhere, sometime.
Zen is a very fun character. I love playing him in deathmatch, but I don't play a lot of him in actual games. But very fun, very fun. I love Zenyatta. But yeah, you mentioned double flex.
Yeah,
double flex support is being played apparently a lot this season.
Yeah.
I haven't personally seen it too much because I haven't really been watching other esports. I only care about EMU. I'm loyal. That's what it is. I know we're not really concerned about it too much right now, but you did also mention Baptiste. I know we have been playing a little bit of Baptiste. I know Rose has been working on her Baptiste and getting those BAP skills sharpened, getting those lamps in good places, getting those windows. I know that she's been working on her windows.
Yeah.
I think we've got some really cool backlines to break out. But it's always interesting that the backline kind of becomes the community kind of figures out what the good duos are, and that almost becomes a single hero.
Yeah,
like if you won't ask for Ana and Brig, you'll ask for Ana Brig. Kiri Lu.
100%. Yeah. And it's the tried and true kind of elements that go up and make those things. And, a lot of it is going to be, you have Kiri Lu would be a good example of like a very naturally synergistic team. Is when you have those support characters, it implores a play style that's very kind of clear cut. You want to jump on them. You want to use your momentum, use your really specialized sustained healing to get into those really intense fights. Lucio especially adds so much strength to especially your hit scan, right? Mm-hmm. Getting to move your hit scan through the map faster than the enemy hit scan is a huge help. It's a really big hit. But yeah, that's really the great thing about these backlines, is that it's always the foundation of the team. You know,
Exactly.
we know based on when we see our the teams show up, we can tell the first thing we want to look at is that backline. And once we know and analyze the backline, we can understand what the team's goal is, right, with the rest of their comp, where the rest of the team can kind of change a bit, but we see what they're sticking with, and that informs how the game is played. Absolutely.
You can tell a lot based on what kind of backline a team has chosen, how they want to be playing. Now, if they roll out Juno Lucio, they're going to be flying around the map.
Yeah.
If they're on a brig, they're going to be probably a little more pokey, maybe playing a little slower, playing a little more dive. And then you've got like your Kiri Lu, which is honestly a very flexible comp. You can play it kind of as a rush comp. You can definitely play it dive and 5-man commit on something and blow it up. I imagine we're probably going to see, like you said, a lot of Baptiste, Kiri Lu. I think, there's a certain viewer out there that I know is watching that absolutely loves Baptiste. Yeah. Cannot get enough of Baptiste. He hates Baptiste. But I stapled him to Baptiste for 2 months.
Yeah.
And then I gave him $10 for it.
Okay, well, $10 for 2 months. I don't know if that rate's legal, but at least it's something for playing a ton of Baptiste. Baptiste is one of those characters too that is just so interesting to watch, especially in the hands of really dominant players like these, because it's really Baptiste is such a great enabler, but what makes him extra great is he can enable himself, right?
Yes.
So when the going gets tough, you can take that high ground and lay down the cover fire that your team needs. You can drop that, that amplification matrix and get people just blast them down yourself if you really need to, right? So what's so awesome about having this hero that can really help their team in the very traditional support sense, but then also has the capabilities to be kind of like a backline carry almost, and really just dish out that damage. I mean, he just kicks so much ass on the battlefield, and that's why it's so amazing to watch. And a lot of supports are like that, you can say there's a lot of supports, and a lot of people say the best support play style is a kind of a self-centered one, where you're like, how do I make this the best for myself while setting myself up for the team? But Baptiste especially, I mean, you see that a lot in genuine pro play, and you see this a lot in collegiate too, of just Baptiste will just throw down that amp matrix on the high ground without a care for where their team is, because it's not for the team, it's for them.
Yep. Windowing for yourself is very critical.
Yeah, absolutely. It shows a lot of initiative on the player, and that's honestly something I expect tonight.
Absolutely. I had something in my head there that I was going to say. I think about Baptiste. I've absolutely been playing Baptiste before, realized that my team is not getting it done.
Yep.
They need a little help.
Yep.
And taking things into my own hands. You can just deal so much damage on Baptiste. Whether you're headshotting down a squishy, just breaking a shield, helping melt down a tank. He does have a lot of damage. And, we saw that kind of transition from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2, where the Overwatch 1 supports were a lot more passive. They could deal some damage, but it was more like self-defense, preventing, just to keep yourself up and to kind of not be just a sitting duck.
Yeah.
Whereas in Overwatch 2, most of the supports from Overwatch 1 have been reworked, and all of the Overwatch 2 new supports have released with much more of a focus on kind of being mini DPS.
Yeah, that's true.
In some capacities, more DPS than the actual DPS.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there were a few patches in there where hilariously people were in the training range showing that, Baptiste was out-damaging Soldier and Alari was out-damaging Ashe. So you have moments like that where you kind of, you can see that shift, which is very clear. And luckily, I think those have been toned down a little bit so that everybody's got their own kind of identity there. But you're definitely right about that hero design philosophy that we've changed, that change into Overwatch 2. Something else we've also seen come into a lot of Overwatch 2 is more utility, right? So items that or abilities rather that aren't just strictly damage or healing is some really great sort of other options that enable skillful play, but that's not just direct numbers. And I think that not only makes the game better for balance, but it makes the game better in, of course, instances like these where we're seeing players perform at a really, really high level. Yes, exactly. You get to unlock more than just who's got the better aim.
Yep.
Which is we can do aim battles, we can do aim duels if we want, but the game isn't aim.
I'm not here to watch Valorant.
Exactly.
I'm here to watch Overwatch.
I almost never am here to watch Valorant.
Yeah, Jaden. You want to watch Valorant. Yeah. But, now that you think about it, a big transition from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2 was the removal of a lot of the stuns.
Yes.
And they kind of put all of those onto the tanks instead, which I think was a generally good move. Stun watch was absolutely a real thing in Overwatch 1.
Yeah.
Very frustrating. There's a pretty famous clip of, I forget which streamer it was, but on Reinhardt getting stunned, slept, hooked for like 10 straight seconds.
Exactly. You just can't play.
So I'm glad they removed a lot of that. And you said that we introduced more utility. And I'm thinking about specifically on the support queue, on the support role. The original supports were Mercy, Zenyatta, and Lucio.
Yeah.
And both Mercy and Lucio, or both Mercy and Zenyatta, the only ways they really supported was by healing and by increasing other people's damage.
Right.
And I'm very glad, and I know that it's a pretty popular opinion, that damage boost is unhealthy for the game. And people do not like damage boost. It messes with breakpoints. It messes with numbers. Just having somebody that just deals more damage because they deal more damage isn't always fun. So having the additional utility of speed boost, of, as much as everyone loves to complain, it's Suzu.
Yeah, right.
The, I'm trying to think of, you've got, other characters like Illari that don't bring a lot of utility but are just more damage and healing.
Yeah, it's true. And something else with a lot of these heroes too is they're like I already said, they're sort of self-enabling, and they're kind of selfish isn't the right word, but they're all of their strength comes from what they can do, not what they can do for others.
Yes.
And something that personally bothers me about the damage boost mechanic is that it enables, this is maybe a rarer issue on ladder, but it enables people to boost themselves or other people very easily. If you have someone who's just a little bit better than everybody, but they're a little bit better and do a bit more damage, that's not really fun to play against. And we know we've all been in those games before where there's just a soldier or a sojourn who drops 40 kills by the end of the match and has just had that blue beam that entire time. That to me is like, it's not fun. And then you sit there at the end of that and you're like, no hate to Mercy, but of course in that case you're like, that player got SR.
Yeah.
Those people took my rank and they didn't really play. They just had someone else who was kind of dealing it. So I think you're right. I think there's a big reason that we haven't seen damage boost really touched at all. And I think they want to make that a part of Mercy's kit that's very situational, right?
Yeah.
You want to say, you're on a target and they're at full health. Well, what do you do now? You whip out your pistol and start shooting. If you don't want that option, you have the option to damage boost, which might just give them that little bit that they need. But you're right about that. But I think that's really, these days, that's more of an exception to the rule, where when we do talk about these new support combos and the new things they can do, it's kind of one for all, right? It's like your kit is designed around helping everyone on your team, including yourself, get to the end goal, which is really, really awesome. But moving away from supports a little bit, let's talk about damage.
So I did want to say one thing about supports. So something that I noticed about supports, and that the people that play supports, is that you've said that you really want to play more selfishly than you think a support probably would.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that I know, that I think is enough people that it's representative of the support player base in general, like to play supports because they like to help other people.
Yeah.
They like to support.
Exactly.
But I cannot tell you how many times I have had to tell support players to not TP and Suzu their inting tank.
Yeah.
Play your own life. Keep yourself safe. You are more important than helping a teammate that's out of position, or your tank that got cut off. You don't want to burn all of your resources and die just to keep somebody else alive.
Yeah.
You are important by yourself.
Definitely. And what you can achieve just with your life and alive is the better part. You know, no one wants to feel like they're holding the leash on the rest of their team and they're just getting dragged forward and they're forced to help, you know. And that was one of the best pieces when I first started playing collegiate. I played a ton of Ana. That was my main hero. And then one of the best pieces of advice I ever got in playing Ana was just to do more damage. And I would end games with, stats that I thought were fine, and I got some advice that said really just try not to heal people if they're not below half. Like, if they're not gonna die, they don't really need it, and you'd be surprised how often you find yourself just topping off people that are just getting chipped for 50, 75 damage over time, especially your tank, and you're just healing, and there's a lot of agency you can take on support, especially these days, where you can really just kind of enable your own play style, which in turn enables your team, right?
Exactly.
Putting out that pressure is so important.
And now it looks like we are gearing up to move into our map pool. And we're going to be Samoa first point.
We're actually going to Samoa. I just said, color me surprised if we manage to go to Samoa, but it looks like we have chosen Samoa. What do you think? What do you think the thought process is?
I'm actually not that surprised. I know that Samoa is actually a pretty well-liked competitive map. I mean, it's not Lijiang Tower,
sure,
and it's not King's Row, but it's one that is pretty flexible, honestly.
I think you're right about that. Yeah.
All three of the points, you can do a lot with it. I mean, it's like we were talking about last time. Control is just a good game mode.
Definitely.
But it's got the variability. You can play a lot. If you want to run it down on one strategy specifically, you're not going to run into some weird one-off point that is that's going to slow your roll. Right?
Yeah. Right.
If you want to play Ram on all 3 points, you absolutely can.
Sure.
If you want to play Monkey on all 3 points, you absolutely can. It has that flexibility, and maybe there'll be better points than others for it. That's good game design. But it's something that you can play what's meta on it.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I think last week we were talking about Lijiang Tower, but now that you mentioned some of these things, I think they do share a lot of similarities. Like when you said, when it comes to variety, and that makes it a valuable map pick for teams for more reasons other than just wanting to play a map that we've practiced, or a map that lends itself really well to a strategy we want to try, or a hero we really want to focus around. We're kind of expecting to see a lot of Zarya and such like that, and this might be a good example of a time where you could bring that out, but you're also getting that intel right on your opponent. You're seeing what they like, what they prefer, what they set into, and everything your opponent does is valuable. Having a team that plays the same comp on all 3 maps lets you know that they appreciate consistency, that they have something that they've practiced and that they really like. Having a team that swaps a lot or has kind of different contingencies for different maps also informs kind of how you play and how you can shape that around it, and that'll inform the match choices for the whole rest of the game.
Absolutely. And like we were saying last time, I do think a lot of it is, you know your opponent, and you play to exploit your opponent's weaknesses, but you do also need to be playing your own game.
Yeah.
And so if it's something, you can kind of counterplay the meta a bit. And if you know that your team is good enough at King's Row, let's say, and everyone else is going to go King's Row and is only going to practice King's Row because everyone else is going to take them to King's Row.
Yeah.
If you go and say, Hollywood is on our map pool, if you get Hollywood down to an absolute science, and then you suddenly whiplash a team over to Hollywood, you can really spook them off guard, and they just don't know what to do because they haven't scrimmed it in 3 months.
Yeah.
But it looks like we are getting ready to go into our map. If we are ready to take a look, we are ready for battle. And as we were talking about last time, it is going to be the Zarya bubbling our Genji with a Sojourn, and our backline is going to be Kiri Lu, as we were talking about.
I think there's a lot of things we can infer going into this. We know the plan, right? We know that the Kiri Lucio is going to enable fast rotations. It's going to enable really kind of extended healing on the Genji. We know that the Zarya Genji is going to be looking for deep dives, really coordinated bubbles to get that Genji kind of in a space that's extremely safe and let him go for kills that maybe he wouldn't be able to get otherwise, which is going to be a really big help here as both teams approach the first capture point. point.
Absolutely. And Zarya into Hazard is a pretty good matchup. Hazard is still a little bit of a monster right now. I don't think he's quite running the show, but he is definitely good.
Yeah, that slash damage. Can't ignore it.
We are seeing the Wu Yang, and the first bubble rotation comes out, Rage diving in and getting out with the bubble. Rose unfortunately goes down with the Hazard diving deep, double onto Aurora, and it looks like Rage may end up going down here as well. And it looks like Otzel is able to take out the Moira, but Otzel gets traded out for it as well, and we are just going to need to reset.
It's a nice exit pick when they're going to get a little bit of percentage-wise here. You know, that's a tough decision to make when the enemy tank goes so far in your backline. You've got to decide as a tank yourself, and even as a DPS, am I going to go their backline? Am I going to peel for my team? These are decisions that you have to make on a split-second basis, and I think we can do that. I think we have a possibility. Oh, unfortunately, Rage is found by a stray Echo Beam.
And that is unfortunate. It's going to be difficult to play Genji into a team that is as mobile as that. The Tracer and the Echo are going to be difficult targets for Rage to find value on, so we may end up just shooting that Hazard most of the time, but Hazard is a tanky man.
Yeah. Got the recall out from the Tracer, managed to pressure it off a little bit. Looks like we're going to take this little left room here with a nice little high ground. Hazard's trying to get inside, but it may not be the best push for him as we're kind of stacked up in here.
And unfortunately, Otzel is going to be taken out first, as the rest of our team is just getting cleaned up in the back line. Rage going down to the Echo, Rose getting traded out by that Tracer, and Nyx getting found by the Hazard as well.
These are the moments where speed is really important, right? If you want to make that rotation in the left room, you got to get there and then find out what's your plan to explode out, right? Every moment that you're not contesting the point and not earning, percentage is time that you are spending trying to make a play. So when you go for plays like that, we really got to get that kind of get that energy going and really just kind of burst out and explode on them. Trying another attack at main here.
Looks like the Hazold is going to come out, and it's going to find Rose and Aurora with the headshots. Otzel also going down. Rage getting traded out as well. And it looks like Central Michigan is going to win that fight with only one ultimate invested. And we really only have our beat up. We are about to have our grab and our rush, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough. Nick's looking for the touch here.
Going to be able to get it, I think, just to extend that timer a little bit. Maybe going to be taken out before we can get the beat off is a little bit sad. Graviton Surge comes out from Otzel, gets a lot of them, but the Coalescence, unfortunately, is going to be able to keep them alive. And without anybody else on the front line, it's going to be first point to CMU.
That was a bit of an unfortunate one. We just couldn't really get out of our own spawn there. Getting picked early really is a death sentence with the Hazard diving us like that.
Definitely.
And Tracer. We haven't even talked about Tracer. Tracer's, I think her win rate's like 55% or something right now. She's a bit of a monster. And we also haven't barely talked about Wu. Wu Yang is just one of the characters of all time, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. Blizzard's went out and said that they like to go on the healthy, safe side of strong for hero releases, and I think we're just seeing some of the consequences of that philosophy with some of these new recent heroes. But you're talking about Hazard a lot and just how dominant he is. He's really not one of those heroes that you can put a one-on-one against. Sometimes you can leave the Reinhardts to duel in the choke. You can't leave the Hazard in the enemy tank. It's just a bad situation.
Because the Hazard is going to run anytime he wants to.
Exactly.
Nyx unfortunately gets traded out almost immediately, having to back up. Rage is trying to get out. Are we able to stack and stable? That Hazard coming in the back line, trying to trade out our Genji, but dies for it.
Fall.
But we do trade out Rose and Aurora in our back line. That Tracer is going to be a monster to deal with.
Not having their tank up doesn't stop them from going and pushing up and securing the rest of their kills, which was probably the right play. Just when, you're that far up. And when you have the point percentage, that does enable you to kind of be a little more aggressive. And while you want as much percentage as you can, you ultimately know that in a fight or a stagger or a stalemate, you're going to win that stalemate if you've got the control of the point.
Yeah, point control is really important. And we're just trying anything we can to just push through this choke here. That Tracer in our backline is going to be very annoying. And it looks like Rose unfortunately gets traded out from that Hazard. Nixon, Otzel, and Aurora following soon after. We're just taking so much damage from every angle. We don't even have time for our Zarya to really set up and get charge to be able to take any space.
The Hazard is burning all cooldowns just to walk into us, and you know that Moira is just able to walk up, and with all of Moira's range and all of Moira's healing over time, that's she can hold down left click for a long time.
She really can, and it becomes a lot of healing when it's on 5 people
over time, especially when you're on a hero like Hazard with those block mechanics. Really looks like Zach looking for a pulse bomb, might not go for it.
And that Hazard ult is going to find 2 and is going to end up taking out the team again. And unfortunately, that is going to be another team wipe for EMU. We are just getting outpaced here, and that Tracer is not being properly dealt with on the off angle. I'm not really sure what else they can do here. I mean, you can see that before Rose even knows that there's a Tracer around, we've already lost all of our health.
Yeah, I mean, the strategy is definitely clear here, and it's who do we look at? Right, you've got a Tracer in your backline, which is sort of a risky target because she can stay alive for a really long time and avoid getting hit. But like we see in the backline there, when you don't deal with her, that's a big problem. The problem really comes when you consider everything else that's happening with the Hazard walking, with the Moira healing, and the Wuyang, who we've barely seen, but that's a good thing. Oh, and the curved Wuyang shot, unfortunately, is going to take out Rage, just trying to reset around the back. Graviton Surge takes them off the point, but nobody's alive to get the value, and unfortunately, that's going to be map 1 for CMU.
That was rough. That was a little rough. The speed that CMU is playing is just something that we are apparently not prepared for. That Tracer on those cut angles, very clearly a good Tracer player, able to take out an entire health bar from a good range before we even register that it's a problem.
Yeah.
And you can just see that, like, once we hit an ult like that, if we don't have our beat ready to go, there's not much you can do about it. I mean, we might be able to Suzu it. We might be able to boop the Hazard. But honestly, I don't think we have those cooldowns ready.
It's really tricky, and something else that leads the dominoes falling is just getting outpaced ult-wise, when we kind of go for plays like, taking the room or in trying to exploit out, we open ourselves up to taking a lot of damage, and ultimately our opponents are winning that ultimate trade when they're getting Hazard ult up first, when they're getting things like Pulse Bomb, that can kind of slip past those Zarya bubbles sometimes and secure picks even when characters are really locked down. Those are that's what's going to fall and tumble and lead to what feels like these kind of heavy roll matches ultimately. But it comes down to just how you pace yourself at the beginning. Staying calm but being decisive and making sure that you're kind of up in those situations. What you want to do when you find yourself losing the first 2 fights is see what ults you're coming onto and then kind of play kind of slow. You'll find a lot of times that your opponents don't want to use their ult, so deep in your territory. They want to counter-initiate to make sure that they're getting value. And when you know that, that's your opportunity to build your own ultimates, to kind of play slow and just be ready to match that. And there were many opportunities, many times, I think, where we're getting ready to go have a push, and they've got their ults, and we're just trying to match them at the front, and that's going to be a really tough ask from all the players when you've got so many powerful abilities available to the other team.
Exactly. The crux of our team comp comes from getting our Zarya charge up and using our bubbles to enable our Genji.
Yes.
And so our Genji is supposed to dash in, get bubble, assassinate somebody, and get out. And the bubble helps him do more of what Genji's good at.
Right.
And it's the same concept with Reaper. Reaper TP's in, gets bubbled, gets some shots off on the tank's back, makes him turn around. We can shoot the tank in the back. And just continuing that cycle over and over again. But the problem here is that we're not living through the first cycle.
Yeah.
I think we need to be ready for them to engage on us.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they're going to tempo first. They're absolutely going to tempo first with a Hazard, and a Tracer like that. It's just going to be, they're going to go first. We need to expect them to go first. And if we are able to maybe save our bubbles and peel more, and I know we really want to be bubbling the Genji and get the value on the Genji, but it doesn't matter if Genji goes in and kills 4 if the Hazard comes in and kills 5.
Right, exactly.
We've got to, so I think maybe we can migrate to that strategy as we kind of absorb that Hazard's
definitely, yeah.
cooldowns. Because once he's in, he's in. And his block can be a lot of damage reduction, yes. But you turn him around, you got your Genji, you can hinder him from the Cassidy that Aurora was playing. There's ways of dealing with him if we can absorb that first jump.
For sure.
It's just dealing with that first jump, and it's no easy task.
It's not at all, yeah.
But you're also dealing with a Tracer. You're getting 100 damage Wuyong orbs coming at you. I don't envy our players right now.
Yeah, definitely. It's a tough situation, and in hearing that we're likely headed to Kings Row next, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that variation that we know and love from last week of running the Reaper with the Zarya. Very similar kind of initial strategy, but like you said, with that kind of counter-initiation, the Reaper might be able to just help a little more. First of all, you've got more HP, a little bit more sustain for yourself. You've got that lifesteal, which is super helpful on Reaper, as everybody knows. And then you just have that ability to do just a little bit more to that hazard. And knowing that hazard's main source of healing right now is Moira, that might be a strategy that can work. The problem is when you switch to that strategy, you just lose a little bit of your speed, a little bit of your movement agency. You have Reaper Teleport, which is really great, but once that's gone, you're in a tough spot. Genji's Cyber Agility passive, letting him double jump, wall climb, means that he sort of always has those mobility tools available. So it'll be really interesting to see where we kind of pivot to and if we make that adjustment at all.
And it sounds like we've actually now banned Hazard, which is an interesting change. I think that's probably going to be good for us.
That's going to be a big help, certainly.
Yeah, I know that where we've been scrimming, not a lot of people are playing Hazard. I don't think we have a lot of experience with Hazard. I know that last night our team played against a Doomfist. They did not have fun.
Yeah.
But in the words of the illustrious Suji, it builds character. It builds character to get fisted over and over again by a Doomfist.
Yeah, definitely. You got to take it, and what really I find are the truly annoying tanks, or the ones that the community kind of decides that they've got some distaste against, are those self-enablers, right? Hazard is such a beast. You've got wall climb, you've got wall. It's like, who even needs a support, honestly? Just go in, kill 5, and then go back and get your healing after. Exactly, yeah. You've got the lifesteal perk, you've got block, you've got all of these tools that just make it so easy to live and just kind of take any space you want. And we see similar things with other of those, kind of tanks that people give the stink eye to, like Ball and Doomfist, right?
Yep.
Who are very solitary tanks. They're playing their own game. You don't often see your Doomfist holding the front line or your Ball doing the same thing. They're God knows where, and they're trying to hard carry the game, or they don't and they feed. But I think taking out the Hazard, which is going to be probably the most competitively viable of those options, especially in a situation like this, is probably a really good idea. And what that kind of does is it forces them to either commit to more of a hard dive, where you've got Hazard who's kind of somewhere in the middle, which I don't think they're likely to do, or they have to swap to a composition that is probably going to be better facing into Zarya or facing into those team comps, which just kind of slows their pace a little bit. It'll be interesting to see what they do to recover and tank-wise.
Yeah. Now, I'm thinking that what our idea here is probably to make them slow down, play something that we are more familiar with. But honestly, I'm wondering if the better ban would have maybe been Tracer, because I know that it's so much on your Cassidy, because you have to have a Cassidy.
Yeah,
if you don't have a Cassidy against a Tracer, or you don't have an equally skilled Tracer to be able to match and mark that Tracer basically 24/7, that Tracer is going to be running all over the place. And so as much trouble as we had with the Hazard, as we discussed, I think it's really enabled by that Tracer.
Yeah.
Because you saw that that Tracer was chunking everybody, and then the Hazard comes and slashes.
Right, for sure.
Let's go ahead and take a look at Kings Row.
Heading into the map here, we'll definitely want to see what the plan is, and if they maybe had a conversation where they said, Aurora, this is for you, right? We're gonna take out this other equation. Looks like they're going Rhine, which they may not stay Rhine. That may be a spawn room choice.
We'll see. We'll see. I know that it is traditionally Reinhardt counters Zarya, big shield. Zarya's damage is all just coming in from the front.
Exactly.
Easy to catch those right clicks. But we're actually prepared for that. I know that specifically Otzel and Rage have been practicing against Reinhardt's, And of course, the CMU going for a cheeky little damage-boosted Widowmaker here.
So I don't think we're going to be able to fall for that, and they notice that soon. It looks like they're going for a swap pretty soon. We're going to Cassidy from Widowmaker. Makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, and we are rolling out on the cast here, kind of expecting that Tracer. Traditionally, we would be playing Sojourn, but it looks like, unfortunately, Rage does not get out in time. Gets the bubble going in, but doesn't Wraith out in time.
Super
and we are just going to have
aggressive
to walk
TP.
back as both of our DPS get picked almost immediately.
Keeping
Nick's
our
just
lives is going to be...
barely avoiding that fire, that charge.
Yeah, unfortunately, Rose gets taken out just on the last little bit. There's only so much the Rejuvenating Burst can do, and it looks like they're just going to keep hitting W on that and stagger us out, which is really sad.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like first point is going to go down for CMU. Let's take a quick look at the replay here. And unfortunately, it just, once our DPS go down and they continue holding W at us, they know that we don't have the pressure to be able to deal with with that much aggression.
Like on Tuesday, we're seeing a lot of these high-risk, high-reward Reaper teleport plays, and I'm ready to see the reward. You know, I think it's possible that this can work, that this bubble strategy is going to get that pick in there, but when you've got a coordinated team like that, they are just going to be able to pop that sucker, and looks like Rage went for it again. We managed to fade out this time, so maybe just a play to get some charge.
That was a pretty good TP, actually. We did get the Reinhardt both to back up, as well as that Maywall coming out. That's his positive elixir trade, in my opinion. And it looks like Rage is in the back line trying everything he can to get some of these supports out. But he's staying a little too long, and the entire team does go down to that Shatter.
Yeah, that's something
Reinhardt
you're going to be
has killed 4.
super vulnerable to when the Rhine is going into the Zarya. You know, at what she might have that bubble up for herself to not get hit, but her team, she can only stop it from 2 people at once. And how often you find yourself in the middle of a fight with 2 bubbles it's pretty rare. So yeah, you're definitely going to be vulnerable to that Earth Shatter on that. But it looks like coming in the last point, we've got a lot of ultimates up on either side. Actually, looks like we're just looking at Graviton Surge for EMU. They're holding a ton of space here. All they are focused on is getting this. Oh, Rage's teleport is instantly going to be charged.
And the Grav comes out as well as our rush. Is it going to be enough to stop this second point? Unfortunately, nobody goes down. Rage does get traded out, as well as Otzel and Rose, and that Reinhardt is just going to go all the way in, pinning Nyx and probably catching out Aurora here. Not much that they can do to get away, and that's going to be point 2 for CMU. It's this aggression that we're seeing, and the sustain from the supports needs to be mentioned, because we're dealing a good amount of damage. I mean, we caught everybody in Grav. We're all there. We're shooting it, but they're just able to sustain with that Rhine shield and with all the healing.
Yeah, and I don't know how much you could call the supports we're seeing on either team range supports necessarily, but when we look at the range, there's definitely a disparity, right? We want to play a little closer up, a little more brawly with something like Brig Bap, whereas they've got they can reasonably extend 15, 20, 25 meters in front of their supports and just be completely fine. And it looks like as we go for plays, we do have the Death Blossom.
It looks like, unfortunately, we're not going to see the Reaper guy right now. That wall on Otzel, unfortunately, he popped immediately. I don't know if he even had bubble or not, but he hit that wall and he got Rhine charged and cast headshot at the same time, and I'm pretty sure he was full health.
Yeah.
He just vanished. No time to react from our supports to be able to keep him up. I don't know if he lives that whatsoever, and they just snowball that aggression into a full cap for CMU.
A really common theme we're seeing in these games is coordination, right? It's not an accident that as soon as the Maywall goes up, 5 people are shooting Zarya. Similarly, it's not an accident that when Reaper goes in TPs, we're seeing that bubble getting popped instantly and forcing out the fade, right? These are deliberate acts that are as clearly results from really, really strong communication. And it sort of begs the question if we're looking for a bit more follow-up, or if we're just looking for a bit of a slower play that's got better odds of working, that isn't so... aggression always beats less aggression. So it kind of, makes you wonder, you've got to either outpace and out-aggress, which might be difficult to do, or you do need to take that step back and just say, we're maybe sacrificing a little bit of our pace, but it's for higher success rates.
Exactly. And now something that I am noticing is that we're TPing in with our Reaper as we've been practicing and as we've been doing. But it seems like Rage might be just staying a little too long. And some of those TPs, it looks like, are getting called out and predicted by CMU. Because as we saw, the Reinhardt charged and timed it perfectly to be able to catch our Reaper TP. And so this is a really good TP because it makes that Reinhardt turn around and hold shield, and we might actually be able to catch him out, but unfortunately Rage goes down. I think what's happening here is we're seeing these good plays, and then we're just staying just a hair too long, an absolute hair too long. Because if we're able to fade out, we live that, go for another cycle.
It's an extremely difficult job, right? Being the Reaper in that situation, knowing whether you extend for the kill or go for the damage or get out is extremely tricky. And I think that's something that we're going to see have really steady improvement throughout the whole season. And this game is already an example, right? Already compared to Tuesday, to the other game, we're seeing a lot more, kind of timing and a lot more thought put into the positioning here. Looks like we're going to be able to live without using Wraith. No, we're going to use Wraith to get out here, but this is a good example of the cycle we want to have.
Exactly. You could see that our Reaper TP'd in, Rage TP'd in, broke that Rein's shield, hid, faded out, and now we're good, and we're just trading the resources. But unfortunately, we do just end up getting picked with headshots, Kiri onto Aurora, that Cassidy taking out Otzel, and the Mei taking out our Rose on Baptiste as well.
And that play just goes to show how tense it is at the choke there. That the straw that breaks the camel's back is that one kunai, that one shot that comes out from Kiri that just finds the head and connects, and then they're able to go through and get the rest of the kills there. It just shows you how tense it was for both sides, that where everybody's sort of hanging on, waiting for that next pick, and we just got to hope that next pick comes for us.
Exactly. It's just so much pressure in a choke like that. You can see we're actually rotating up top, trying to avoid that pressure. But it looks like we are going to get full shattered here, and that is going to be a big play for that Reinhardt. Killing almost 5, getting stolen by that Cassidy there. But
yeah, unfortunately, honestly, the Rage on the Immortality field is just not quite enough to get everybody who got shattered there. I think it was a good call, a good turn to kind of put the pressure on that Reinhardt, but if he lives, he's just going to throw that out, and I mean, that was a Hail Mary.
Honestly, that was a really good play for that Reinhardt, because he recognized that what we were doing, that we were rotating like that, and that we were vulnerable to a shatter like that.
Okay, we got a couple of them Graviton in front of this Baptiste window. Looks like we're going to be able to use it to find a kill. The Baptiste is going to fall too, so we are even now. Rage is low in the back. Rick's trying to survive, but unfortunately gets picked off by the Cassidy as we just can't find cover quick enough. Got a bubble for Rage that might be able to get him out.
The overclock comes out. Are we able to find some sort of hero play from Aurora? Almost getting everyone on the enemy team low. Taking out that Cassidy.
Getting several people low, goes for the dive and gets the bubble to reposition on high ground. This is going to be a super important angle and super important moment for EMU. Now that we actually have our hit scan set up on an off angle here, high ground no less, going to be able to lay down the fire. Look how easily we can swing and look to try and take the point.
And that was a fantastic play from Aurora. That was ballsy as all hell, but it worked out. And now we've got that high ground. We're actually going to be able to take this first point. My favorite
Death
character
Blossom
is
coming
the Reaper
out.
guy.
Otzel's able to find the kill on the 1 HP Kiriko. Earthshatter comes out, doesn't manage to hit Otzel, doesn't manage to hit anybody.
The high noon comes in and shuts everything down. Aurora still putting in work from that high ground. Rage putting in work too. Is it going to...
Oh, what a nice shot!
Aurora putting the team on their back, but it's not going to be enough. Rage, can you pick up the pieces? Rage, do it. Do it, buddy.
One, and we've got it. We are earning percentage on the point.
Just live, bud. You can do it. We've got our team coming in. Are we going to be able to sustain through a rush? That Doomfist gets Suzu'd and bailed out.
He's got his empowered punch. We got to be careful here.
And that Doom is just going to get empowered punch and unfortunately take out Aurora and Rose. But we do trade out that capping. Mei. We are on point. Oh, it's just not going to be enough. But
so close in those final moments.
That's the team that we have.
Yeah.
That was so close.
That was absolutely neck and neck at the end there. You could see everybody locking in, leaning forward in their chairs. It was a really, really good attempt on that last thing. And, we kind of saw what we expected to see, which was the answer was having that really high-risk, high-reward aggressive play that they just couldn't handle, right? We have Aurora going in with the overclock, getting several people low, and instead of giving up when the overclock's over, she says, no, I'm going in, I'm going to get that kill. And once you do, you have that bubble, that high ground, that position was just what we needed to be able to make our real first assault on this point.
That was honestly one of the most incredible scenes, plays that I've seen out of Aurora, because that was the fuck it, I'm done, we're going for it, and it worked.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw the OC come out and I was a little nervous. I was like, we're trying to do something. I know what we're thinking, that we've got to get this point all the way to the end.
Yeah, and when it comes down,
if we die with this ult, we're just not using it.
Yeah.
So let's just use it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
We get them low, and Aurora says, I'm not done. And we, very, very ballsy, slide up over the choke, say, I'm him.
Yeah.
Kill that Cassidy.
Get that pick.
Who you had no right killing, but you did it. And rotated safely up onto high ground because they didn't have the range to be able to deal with it, because it was a Reinhardt and a Mei. And then we established that off angle. The rest of our team respawns and walks through. That was I can see the vision.
Yeah,
I see the vision.
Definitely. And it takes a really great player to be able to make that play and succeed with that play. And it also takes a great team to follow up. And what we saw was a really good sign when we see everybody recognize the new position we have, the new line that has been drawn of what is their space and what is our space, and taking that instantly and moving in. When it comes to that final fight, I think that really just came down to they had all their sustain ready at once.
Yep.
Doom was low. Burning him through block I think is a good idea there if he's using his cooldowns. But unfortunately, Kitsune, he got Suzu'd twice.
Yeah.
Two Suzus is really hard to bust through. You can't do anything
Suzus
about that.
It's just ridiculous. It sounds like we might be taking a little bit of maybe a bio. So I'm good to yap.
Yeah,
You're good to
I'll
yap.
yap. Let's do it.
Jaden's telling us to go to break. Yeah. I may have no voice, but that doesn't mean I can stop yapping. But that's the kind of brass balls that we need to have.
100%.
And the playmaking potential that we do have. We made that play.
Yep.
And was it something that we should rely on as a consistent strategy of, I'm gonna rip OC and slide over the wall and 1v5? It probably not. We probably don't want to do that consistently. But you know what? When your back's against the wall and you got no other options, you start kicking.
Definitely. And I think it was actually Jane who I heard first say there is no ult economy in OT, right?
Yes.
Once it's overtime, forget everything you know about cooldowns and cooldown management and ultimates. You have to use it. That is it. The game could be over like that. So what are you going to do if the game ends and you're sitting on your ultimate, right? That's just a waste. So I think when it comes down to that, right, and there's tough decisions to be made, I think we made the exact right decision. We saw a play, and I'd be willing to bet that we had more calculation behind it. The comms that we don't get to hear that could have informed that play is like, I've got bubble ready, or we can still push, I'm respawning in 5 seconds, stuff like that. All of that stuff goes into making a play like that. But ultimately, Aurora with the judgment to just say, I am going to go secure that pick, and that's what it's going to take for us to get there. I mean, we almost had it. We had 2 ticks on that point. And, I think if a few things could just, go a little bit different, then we've got it there. We won our 1v1s, our 2v2s, our 3v3 as the teams kind of dwindled down. It's just sometimes, when you've got Doomfist in the back pocket and you just switch to a fast hero, that's what does it sometimes.
Yeah. And it was, we were so close. There's a little bit that I need to say about Aurora. Aurora, I mentioned it last time. Aurora came onto the team as that headshot. Headshot. You had oh my God, it's
on
so
the Mei,
good.
that extra pick just secured it.
And then Rage locking it down against that Wu. But it's a Doomfist. What are you going to do against a Doomfist? Everybody did as much as they could there. Some of these instances come down to just pure time, and sometimes it's just mechanical skill. Aurora came onto the team as a 1,000 hour Bronze 6 Mercy 1 trick, and in the about 2 years that I have known them, they have climbed through the ranks, kicking and screaming, hating comp the whole time.
Yeah.
And now they're pulling off shit like that
100%.
against players that are significantly higher SR than they are. That is what we mean when we say SR is just a number.
Yeah, absolutely. And
rank is not real.
For sure. And because there is a high elo mindset and there's a high elo skill set, right? And we all know that one person in our lives who plays every game and they're like, masters or whatever, and they just have really, really strong mechanics and aim, and that's how they play and that's how they want to play. But the evidence for this is really that there are hard locking cheaters in bronze.
Yes.
There are $5 cheats, completely blatant, who are stuck in bronze. And it just goes to show you that even with a 100% accuracy, if you don't know what you're doing and you don't know how to make plays, then you're not going to climb and you're not going to be able to. So the fact that we have these moments where we're seeing players super locked in, land crucial headshots, land crucial ultimates, dive past enemy teams is so important. But having that paired with a player that knows how to unlock their own potential and take agency and see a situation like that and capitalize on it is really, really great. I don't want to think what would happen if we hold on to that OC, wait for everybody to respawn, and try again.
Exactly.
Because we're just getting stonewalled at that choke.
They were already... I'm not super into, physical fighting, but like MMA and that kind of stuff. Yeah. If your opponent is ready for you and is in a defensive stance, it's really hard to engage them. And the same is true in any sort of competitive combat. Overwatch is the same way. But counter swinging, as they are maybe with a bit of ego running into our spawn, saying, "Oh, I can just swing my hammer around and nothing bad will happen. I don't really need to care about my positioning. It's almost overtime. We're going to win. No problem." If you hit them with a surprise right hook, then that's when they're vulnerable.
Yeah.
If you can catch them when they're not ready, you can make those big plays like that.
Yeah. And you got to let them know that you're serious competitors. That you are still in this. I would, if I were them, I would see a play like that and say, okay, maybe we do need to I hope they don't say this, but just kind of simple it up a little bit, go by the classics and not kind of do this super extended play style that we're seeing. But I kind of hope they do it more, because I do think that we will take that own agency now, But that was just such a great play, and it is the kind of play that separates the great from the good.
Absolutely.
There's always a bunt, there's always a team play, but sometimes you got to go for the home run.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to just say, it's my turn to kind of go throw it out of the park. And I hope we get to see more in this third match.
Absolutely. That's what I love about Overwatch. You were saying just a minute ago that there's hard-locking cheaters in Bronze 5.
Yeah.
And that they stay there because they can't play. That Overwatch is not just about mechanical skill.
Not at all.
It's about all of that team play, the game knowledge. And I know that we have that game knowledge.
Yes.
I know that all of our players have put in the time, they've put in the effort, they know what to do. Sometimes it's just simply a matter of they're full-time students and they don't necessarily play the game for 10 hours straight like I did yesterday.
Yeah.
But we are going to go into our next map here, and it looks like we are going to be on Watchpoint Gibraltar, and we're probably going to end up seeing that same comp from Tuesday.
Yeah. Now, Glavon, this one's really important to me because we didn't get a chance to show our best stuff last week. Last week we had an unfortunate 0-3, but when we really take a look at, what happened, Watchpoint Gibraltar stands out as a particularly rough time. Yep. And it was because you could just tell the amount of dedication and practice that the opponents had in it, not to mention the huge SR difference. But this was just something they were so familiar with. They were able to play a lot of really high skill ceiling heroes super effectively. And I want to see us do that, because I think we have a lot of those on our tool belt that we can bring in. And I know that we have a concrete strategy and plan for this map that was just so difficult to execute against super, super refined components. So this map is really important to me, as it's going to show, it's going to be our best indicator of, you know, growth from even just a few days ago of, you know, showing what we can do on this map and what we've practiced.
Absolutely. I know that Watchpoint Gibraltar was one that the team voted immediately after that match.
Yeah, absolutely.
Suji had some really great things to say to us and to show the team how we can improve and how to deal with the situations that we are encountering.
Yeah.
If I remember right, we were dealing with the Ball, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ball is just he's one of those tanks that are just really he plays unlike every other tank.
Playing
in the
against
same way
Ball
that
is
Doofus
like playing a
does.
different game.
Yes, completely different. And we made some crucial kind of fundamental mistakes last time.
Yeah.
That I'm hoping that now that we have reviewed, we know what we're supposed to do, we should be able to play around them.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we end up in our little mega room as we've planned, and we're able to teleport back and forth and avoid everything. I do know that strategy struggles a little bit against Doomfist because if he gets empowered, he can punch all 5 of you in there.
Right.
And we did see a Doomfist come out of the enemy team, which I'm not super happy about.
Yeah, it remains to be seen if that was more of a I need to get to point kind of pick, and this is my choice over, you know, Wrecking Ball or Winston, or if that's a genuine choice, a genuine hero in the back pocket. You know, I'll never say no to Doomfist gameplay, but in this instance, I think you're totally right. I mean, it's sometimes cool to watch, but I think something like this we really don't want to see become super dominant, and it looks like we won't.
And we are going to see a pretty traditional dive comp coming out of CMU here. Of course, EMU on our predicted comp with the Juno, the Brig, the Reaper, and the Cass. Not on the BAP because the BAP is banned.
Which honestly explains the 2 Junos.
Exactly. And we still see that Wu Yang on the enemy team. And it looks like we are going to try to counter dive this Winston.
We do manage to knock him off, prevent him from getting up height. Pretty important.
And that Wu Yang poke is just going to be a lot. As that Winston tries to take some high ground, but we are stacking hard up there. We do not want to give it to him. That Widowmaker, we have got to stay out of her LOS because it could be deadly. And we rotate down, but unfortunately Rose does get caught out, not rotating fast enough. Otzel, unfortunately, going too deep in the back line and getting demeched for it.
Going for the reset there, probably a good call. You don't want to be staying alive any more than you have to. The rest of our team is trying to show up at the rendezvous point, but unfortunately without everybody, it's just going to be too tricky. Reaper looks like going to be caught on the mini health pack here and is going to fall down.
And we are going to be able to reset and hopefully get a touch here. It's really unfortunate that we're not able to execute on the strategy that we want to with this comp. But
I think we have a good idea.
Yeah,
I think we have a good idea of when we want to show up. Some of the problems is coming from where we come from, right? When we stack so closely together, it's really easy to follow the movement. And you know, a lot of these heroes on the enemy team, you know, like Wu, like Juno. I mean, frankly, a lot of them really thrive when a lot of people are stacked on top of each other. Think Winston, think Echo Stickies.
Get a big pick on that Echo, but unfortunately we get traded out on Nyx and Rage. That Tracer, like I said before, is going to be a problem to deal with. And that Wu Yang with that damage, just chunking Rose down.
Oh.
That Sniper Monkey
That's
is
the Winston secondary fire for you there.
one of my favorite silly little interactions in the game. But that's a lot of damage out of Wu Yang.
Second point Gibraltar can be a really difficult recontest, especially with the very small chokes. Wu Yang trying to go for some trick shots here. We got a Reaper on a nice little off angle. Looks like their Winston's not too healthy. He's going to be forced to jump back to her team. Might let us crawl out here a little bit and kind of take some height. Looks like Brig is getting jumped in the bubble, and the Tracer is going to come out from the shadows and just immediately help.
Is just too much, and even with shield, not able to sustain through it, and we're just not able to stabilize long enough to be able to get into properly touch point. Otzel trying everything he can to delay point, Rage as well, but unfortunately, it's just not going to be enough.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this last point is so difficult, and you know, you also have like I said, these coordinated plays where you see this Winston go in, and just when you think that maybe he's playing a little bit outside of his means, that's when that Tracer swings in, or that's when Wu Young finds the peak, you know?
Yep.
It's a very sort of glass kind of cannon strategy that they have that can be dismantled, and we have the ability to, especially with all these ultimates coming online when they're still a little behind, and they're not going to have Primal, which is, you know, your Winston's big survivability tool.
Yep,
Excited to see what we go ahead and use first here. Otzel looking for the Juno.
And the Reaper guy comes out, and we find 3 with it. My favorite character is the Reaper guy. Special move, honestly, one of the best in the game. And so he comes equipped with these 2 revolvers that only take about 3 or 4 shots to actually execute a kill. So it comes really in handy, especially when you come from the side. I owed that one to Jaden.
So weird. I'm getting some deja vu. It's like I've heard that somewhere before, but I don't know. Maybe it's just a common opinion.
Right off the dome. Rage coming in from the high ground, maybe picking out that Echo, but forcing the copy. If we are able to just leave, Aurora unfortunately gets traded out, but both orbits come out. Rage trying to live, Aurora going down, Nyx going down, and Rose going down, unfortunately. And Otzel is soon to follow with the mech. Just trying everything we can to slow this point down.
Yeah, just a bit out of sync. I mean, we see the vision there. The Echo getting 1 and having to burn the copy is a really, really good idea, but they just had more follow-up. You know, they had those other ults ready. We you know, dropped to both rays super deep, and they just, you know, sort of walk past each other. But we can't really get to ours when we've got so much congestion and especially having your Reaper on now an escape mission makes it more difficult to coordinate those kind of precise attacks.
Yeah, and honestly, shout out Aurora again for hitting some great shots, taking out that Tracer, even though they cap just after it. Taking out that Echo, a lot of our picks are coming out of Aurora. Rage with a big Reaper ult coming in.
Yeah.
And we're able to actually truly win a fight for the first time. But it's just too much. We lose that ultimate. We don't have it to respond for the next fight. And it just becomes so scattered and hectic that really plays into CMU's composition here, where they were on the Echo, the Tracer, and the Monkey that can quickly pounce on anybody that they need to. If we get separated, it's going to be really difficult for our Reaper to help, for our Diva to DM us properly. It's gonna be rough if we end up in those situations.
100%. And look, you know, Aurora is a win condition. We can play off of this. We can acknowledge and say, hey, look, the way we're winning these fights is with these early picks, is with these counter initiate duels that we're winning, and we can kind of set up for those. You know, defense matrix, and you know, just the raw healing that Brig Juno can produce is cause, you know, to kind of get freaky with your cast. Looks like we're doing a good job of keeping cover and just going to force this as long as we can, but we do need to watch these Wu Young orbs, which could come curving around at any moment, bringing our supports to half.
And it looks like we are going to try to rotate underneath, but unfortunately, Rose tries to go in front of Otzel and just isn't able to get the DM. We do full rotate down, but without Rose, is it going to be enough sustain just from our Brig? Unfortunately not. The Torbjorn does get in there, wipes out Nyx and Aurora. Rage trying to get out, but unfortunately not able to Wraith far enough out.
And I think the Torb here is really just a comfort pick. You know, it's a Gibraltar pick. It's something that can have success versus a Diva, you know, or some of these here. I mean, Torb is just like, he's just kind of good. You know, I don't know if I'm thinking for crazy that, or if I'm crazy for thinking that, excuse me. But, you know, he's got a lot of versatility with his primary and secondary fire. And even in a moment like this where, you know, we're pretty close quarters, he's able to just go in and just hold down that left click, you know, or right click, whichever it was, and then hitting it down. Looks like we're trying one more time, but we just get picked out again.
Unfortunately, we're just rotating too quickly. We really need those DMs to cover our rotation. Those Wu Yang bubbles are just going to destroy us if we are getting hit by them in our rotation. Also, we does take out
manage
the
to find 2.
And Rose is still up. That Torb really wants him, but unfortunately is going to go down.
And is going to be able to find, yeah. Something else, too, that really matters a lot when you go for rotations out in the opens like this is suppressing fire, right? Keep shooting the enemy while you try to move to prevent them from looking at you, you know, right? High ground sort of has one weakness, and it's that when you are behind cover, you don't have an angle necessarily, you know? It's obviously better to have the option to just move backwards for cover, but when you don't have that, you want to make sure that the angle that they're taking is, you know, not a good one.
Exactly.
Kiri gets boofed off 1 and is forced to use TP to get back.
and we are desperately trying to avoid all the poke. It doesn't seem like it would have a lot of poke on that comp, but Monkey actually can do quite a bit of poke these days. That Torbjorn getting booped in, we should be able to kill him, and that's a big pick. We just need to stabilize, and we should be able to convert on this at least some distance. Is it going to be enough for us to rotate down? That Winston is going to come in with Wu Yang ult and stun at least Aurora, but the Mega
we're going to be able to get the Mega health pack.
We do force Primal out. The bomb coming out from Otzel. Both rallies coming out from the copy on Echo. We still have Reaper ult. We could see something big coming in here. This is anybody's fight, honestly.
Rage, racing to reload, trying to get the Winston, and gets it on the outpick. Teleporting up to try and fight the Torbjorn here is going to cleverly not take that fight right away, try and regenerate a little bit, and find some healing somewhere.
And I think we are unfortunately going to go down here, but that was a dog fight. Oh,
you know, that's the momentum that we need. Finding that one pick and moving in is going to be really important there. You know, the unlucky nature was they had the people that were still alive had their ultimates available, which is going to be really tricky. But it looks like we didn't burn too many of ours, so we are actually going to have some resource coming in a little bit.
Yeah, that was honestly a shout out Otzel for recognizing that Torb overextending and getting the boop off. Which is not always easy to do if that Torb is aware of what Otzel is trying to do. But that execution on that Torbjorn really allowed us to even have that fight in the first place.
Otzel going for the Wu, who dropped down maybe a little bit too early. He's going to pop ult on himself, though.
We do force out the enemy Wu Yang's ult. Unfortunately, we do get taken out. Rage and Rose going down. Unfortunately, Rose going down to the hammer kill. They might be getting a little disrespectful on us, but that's all right.
Only so much Rage can do in this situation.
Trying to get that Reaper ult in, but unfortunately it's not going to be enough. And that is going to be third map for CMU.
I mean, honestly, this is we're watching the journey happen.
Yes.
You know, we're seeing a lot of these really tense games versus these teams that, you know, when we think about a team like this, we don't know if these are 5 brand new people that just tried out a few weeks ago and just met each other, or if these are teams that have played for semesters and months together and, you know, have sort of a rhythm that we're looking to find. The good news here is that we are seeing the key moments go in our favor. We're seeing the points in the match where we just lock in, we let ourselves take control, we see the advantage, we know exactly how to capitalize on it, and we do, you know? It's just about finding that opening moment is difficult to struggle with, but we see good picks, when we see boops, when we see, or we go for really great plays that get picks and secure, you know, whatever it is about the follow-up is, we just need more of those. We can make it happen, but I think that's what we want to look for more. Is we want to look at those moments that we know that we completely get it down and just, you know, shoot for those, and that's what's going to really bring us into the later portion of some of these maps. Yeah, honestly, I think our team should be super proud of what they put up. 100%, absolutely, yeah.
I think that probably looked better than it did on Tuesday.
For sure, yeah.
We had some plays that we were really able to show that we're not just going to shrivel up and die.
Yeah.
We're here to fight. We're doing what we need to do. It's just about getting those reps in.
Yeah.
Just get those reps in.
The other important part about it is like really wanting it, right? And we see that these players really want it. We see that in the communication. We see that in the coordination. We see that in the plays people make. You know, it can feel easy sometimes when a match isn't going your way to just kind of roll over and just be like, let's just get this done, go next map. But we don't see that from our players, and that's a really, really good sign that we're still trying it, we're still going for it. A few minutes down on Kings Row shouldn't mean that we don't try that risky play, or that we don't try to enable the rest of the team and go for a bigger swing. I think that something that we would benefit a lot from is just, you know, taking a little bit more space and just spacing out a bit. Having ourselves be super condensed does leave us open in some instances to falling to things like, you know, Reinhardt being particularly difficult to deal with when we're all clumped up. Can kind of it can have an adverse effect. But what we've seen is that we know that we don't have to play that way. If we look at the follow-up of Aurora's play on Kings Row, we saw that we instantly spread out around that space. We take statue, we take the side of point, and we sort of create these off angles that it's just a little bit easier to operate in versus some of these really aggressive teams.
Exactly. Playing all stacked in that room, you could see that we rotated in there and we were able to stabilize for a bit. not having Baptiste definitely makes that strategy harder. But I think Juno is honestly the next best choice. I mean, maybe a Moira. I mean, bouncing an orb in there. I'm not sure exactly what you do if you ban Bap there. But we are going to go to our schedule and take a look one more time. You just watched EMU versus Central Michigan today, and then next week on Tuesday, we've got EMU versus Bowling Green, and then on Wednesday, we've got Rocket League versus Central Michigan. Hopefully, our Rocket League team is able to make it 1-1, like we said last time.
Exactly.
And then again, Overwatch on the 23rd, and Rocket League on the 24th against Ohio University and Bowling Green.
Nice. These are good schools. I've seen a lot of these people play before. And, you know, at the end of the day, these games that are coming up are stepping stones. Every game that we play is a stepping stone. There's so much to learn from each one. I have no doubt that our team is locked in on the VOD reviews and the scrims and putting that all into practice. Some of these, you know, at the end of the day, sometimes it comes down to just what people are playing. There are teams that are really, really even matchups that can feel like a stomp when it's just sometimes it's a bad matchup. We look at something like Samoa, you know, we have this really this Genji dive, and they sort of had that a little bit covered. They had picks like Tracer, like Moira, like Hazard, and even Wu Yang, these are kind of difficult first targets. If your whole team is a difficult first target, then just securing that first pick, which is the most important step, sometimes becomes really difficult. So I think a lot of that, you know, came into it when it comes down to specific composition, but I really do think that all the potential is there. Seeing the follow-up and the drive from players when we have those initial moments is really good, and I think it's worth definitely in the VOD reviews. I have no doubt that they're covering what that follow-up looks like and how to really secure it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I think the biggest thing that we're struggling with right now is just simply getting outpaced.
Yeah.
Because these teams are obviously very good. They're high-level collegiate players, and they're able to respond and predict what we're trying to do and respond to it incredibly quickly. And if they tempo first, it just takes us a little too long to respond to it and absorb it before they execute their entire plan.
Yeah.
So it's just going to be about the reps. Like I said, just going to be about the reps. Getting that just muscle memory of like who to bubble, who to Suzu, when the lamp comes out, what am I beating for? Even like, you know, you hear the blade come out, you beat.
Yeah.
Like all of those, just like you don't even dedicate brain power to it anymore. Once we get to that level, I think it's going to be really interesting, and I think it's important to note that we are playing up to this level.
Yeah,
that
100%.
We're not rolling over and dying. We're putting in the work. We are not getting completely and utterly shut out. We're making plays. I can see it. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a long, hard road getting there, but I think we're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, everyone's trying, and I just can't wait to see the rest of the season.
Absolutely.
When those pieces finally click, it's going to be beautiful.
And I think that's probably going to wrap it up for us today. Thanks for tuning in to EMU Overwatch, and you'll see us again next week. Well, I won't be here, but you know,
you'll see me.
You'll see Ben. You'll see the rest of them.
I'll have a special guest.
More Winston. I don't know who's going to yap with Ben for me, but we'll figure it out.
It's a surprise for later.
But anyway, thanks for tuning in. Tune in again next week for more Overwatch. Bye.
Peace out.